Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. I hope I'm not late. I think I just caught the last bit there from the introduction from Sharon. So thank you so much, Sharon, for that introduction. Yes, I am very excited to share what Omni has to offer to support the contact center industry in the way of upskilling and reskilling. And of course, we really want to talk about accreditation in terms of our qualifications. Very importantly also, I'm excited to chat to everybody about how ready we are to take on the challenges that this new norm has thrown upon us. And if you've just come out of Hawa's ETD's track earlier this morning, you would notice that I'm using the new norm phrase quite a bit. So yeah, that's been my phrase. So just to position quickly the next 45 minutes or so, we want to look at what is happening in the contact center space and share what we believe to be a way forward. I mean, for many of us, our environments have changed from being in a central location only to now having to lead teams that are located all over, which has commonly been termed as hybrid teams. We are going to provide an overview, as Sharon mentioned, of our accredited and our unaccredited learning solutions, because we do want to take this opportunity to showcase how we do things. And so we are going to give you a bit of a preview in how we ensure that learning is experiential. We have a very special prize for one lucky attendee later on, but I'm not going to be a spoiler on this one. We'll share more about that later. So just before we get into it, I'd like us to participate in a quick poll using the link that I'm going to pop into the chat box now. Please let us know if you're able to access it. Best make sure that I send that. And then I am going to stop sharing this presentation and share that screen so that I can see exactly what you are seeing on your side. Right, so here what we are looking at is we do want you to share a little bit about yourself in terms of your current role in your business or in your organization, or whether you are an independent, and then also to tell us a little bit about what you think the challenges for contact centers are at the moment. And as you complete that poll and submit your responses at the bottom, I'm going to share the responses as they come through. Okay, so far we're seeing that there's at least 50% of us being consultants and contact center managers or team leaders. Okay, we'll give it another minute or so just to see if there are other responses that come through. Sharon is available in the chat box with me as curator for this session. So just in case I miss any comments that comes through in the chat box while I'm in presentation mode, Sharon will be engaging and making sure that we actually manage to get to your question, if it's a question, a little bit later on. So please feel free, guys, to let us know what's happening on your side, whether it's a technology challenge or whether it is that you want to comment on anything that we are talking about, give your viewpoint. I really do want to encourage that. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so it's kind of an even split at the moment. So welcome to all of our contact center, our heads of business, the consultants, the ETD practitioners, managers. In some way or form, we are all engaged or all involved in growing people and supporting them in their career and personal development. That's where our passion lies, isn't it? From what I can see in terms of the biggest challenges that contact centers are facing today, I see that the low staff morale seems to be kind of jumping ahead of everything else, as well as the lack of respect and understanding of what the contact center is about or how it impacts everybody else out there. And that is kind of about an attitude, isn't it? I see attrition coming through for sure, and then definitely in terms of lack of skills, that one seems to be coming through as well. So again, I'll just give it a couple of minutes just to see if any more responses come through. Right, so low staff morale is still jumping ahead of everything else, as well as the lack of respect or the attitude. Wow. Okay, so it really does seem like it is about people's behavior and the way they think and the way they see themselves and their business in terms of, you know, in the bigger picture of things. I do want to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing this screen here, and then I'm going to go back to our presentation because I do want to share some interesting stats with you around what others see their biggest challenges to be. So please bear with me while I quickly just share that screen with you. Okay, I do apologize. It's taking a little bit longer. All right. Okay, I trust that everybody can see that screen. At the moment, if I can just get confirmation, please. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Right, so it is interesting to note that the feedback from the poll has been very similar, although, you know, if we kind of look at the number of responses that we get, it's quite, that we receive now, it's quite small, but when we look at what other surveys have revealed, and the one that I'm showing you at the moment on the screen is from Laurie Bocklund from the Contact Center Pipeline and Strategic Contact. When she did the survey at the start of this year, her findings showed that attrition, staff attitudes like lack of respect, not understanding the impact that we have on other people or on our clients, etc., absence, poor collaboration, and the lack of resources, both digital and human, have taken the top spots in this list of contact center challenges. But I do think, and I'm sure you can agree with me, that these are also very synonymous with call centers, isn't it? We are used to seeing high attrition. We are used to seeing that there's a high absence rate. It's just the nature of contact centers, but it doesn't mean that we don't strive to get it right. And so we can just imagine now, in terms of post-COVID-19, how these challenges are probably amplified as we are speaking at the moment. Also interesting is that in 2018, research was done by the principal analyst of Aberdeen, indicating that finding and retaining qualified customer service support was also a top challenge. That was back in 2018, that's 2 years ago, but we still have that challenge today. Just looking back at attrition and poor training being highlighted on our previous slide. And our own research across industries resulting in the creation of Omni's development stack model, which we are going to get into a little bit later. This model sets out how to address, or at least it sets out to address these needs that we have identified through a combination of accredited and unaccredited learning, through bit learning, which is short, sharp interventions which could transfer knowledge and skills, soft skills, and it has a component that deals with workforce 2030 skills. And these skills are significant in the sense that it is needed in the future in terms of heightening our sense of humanity, and that will set us apart from automation, from artificial intelligence, and from robotics as well. So in terms of what it is that we need in terms of going forward, we really need to be agile in the way that we lead people, the way that we lead teams, and we really need to be agile in the way that we address these skills gaps that exist, which we have now summarized to be inadequately skilled employees, Technical skills are not an issue, but the need for soft skills has been amplified. New critical skills like complex problem solving, creativity, critical thinking, adaptability, etc., those are the skills that are now needed. Managers and leaders are support resources. Employees do see them as sources of information and role models for the organization. And so they also expect leaders to ensure speedy access to information and information networks. Too many processes and red tape prevents the agent and the team leaders from delivering on a great customer experience. So how agile are leaders in support of their teams when it comes to decision making and problem solving? And then, of course, negative attitudes and behaviors, which came through in terms of the poll, which also came through in terms of the previous research that was done, also makes this list of things that's needed or things that needs addressing, and agility, being flexible in the way we address these, thinking outside of the box is needed to address all of these issues. I'd like us to share a little bit. I know everybody's a bit quiet and I probably said quite a bit. Please, again, feel free to pop your questions or thoughts or comments into the chat box. You're welcome to disagree with me. It will make for good debate. But I'd like us to share a little bit around what you think will be required to manage hybrid teams successfully. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to put a web page on the screen that you can access using your mobile phone or just another browser page. And it is a bit of a poll where you can now share with us your thoughts around this. Please give me a moment. I just need to get that up. Right, so what do you think will be required to manage hybrid teams successfully? So on your mobile phone or on your browser, you will go to menti.com. It will then ask you to use an access code, which you can see at the top of the screen. It's 20, 39, 34, and 8. And once you access that screen, it will allow you to answer the question, giving at least three answers. And as soon as those answers come through, we'll see them popping up on our screen. Okay, so it does take a moment for everybody to just get into it. Please let me know if there's any challenges. The link to Menti, Tanya, it's menti.com. So I'll put it in there as well. Menti.com. I'll put it into the chat box. Okay, so everybody's a bit quiet today. Is everybody able to access? Thank you, Dot, for confirming. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so please just bear with us. As I mentioned, it does take a moment for the answers to pop up as people actually submit them. So what do you think will be required to manage hybrid teams successfully? Thank you for the contribution. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Strong leadership for sure. Effective communication, and I think that's probably one that, you know, it's kind of a buzzword. We use it all the time, but often we have to question ourselves and ask, do we know what effective communication means? Are we able to flesh that out and break it down into what is not working? Because we all often believe that we are communicating, but are we communicating effectively is the question that we want to ask ourselves. Collaboration for sure, definitely. Love that. I see empathy coming through. I see critical thinking coming through. A lot of the skills that have been listed in terms of future skills that will be needed to successfully or to be successful in any workspace, isn't it? Regardless of what industry it is in. Effective engagement, absolutely. We definitely are going to need the ability to ensure that when we do engage with people, with our employees, with our colleagues, with our leaders, that engagement is positive and that it's effective for the objectives that we're trying to achieve. Decision making, absolutely. I see system controls there. That's popped up as well, most definitely, because we won't be able to manage in terms of the fluid transition from in-house, meaning in the building, to managing our people that's working from home, if the systems that we put in place, being processes and technology, is not suitable and it doesn't work. Lovely. I see flexibility popping up there. I see creativity, see negotiations, absolutely needed for the space that we are in at the moment. Right, so I'll just give it like 10 seconds or so just to see if anybody else contributes on that. But all of these, in terms of what it is that we are going to need, are so relevant. And it just means that if we are sitting and we kind of thinking that, I have got a team, there's some things that's not really working as well as I'd like it to work, then what is it that I can do differently? What is it that I can improve on in order to make sure that we make this model work? Because at the moment, it's not a choice. We have to make it work if we want our businesses to be sustainable and if we want to have good relationships with our employees. Okay, so let me share then. There's one that I didn't see pop up, but you can tell me, you can share your thoughts with me in a moment around what you think about trust. Maybe you can just pop a comment in the chat box. Where do you think trust fits into all of this? What do you guys think? Where do you think trust fits into all of this in terms of the skills that's required? Do you think it's a skill? Do you think it's an attitude? Right, absolutely, Sharon. It's the foundation of all that was shared. Without trust, we definitely will not be able to have effective communication. We definitely will not be able to collaborate with everybody else. We won't be able to negotiate successfully. I mean, we can negotiate, but whether that is successful and whether there's a win-win, that would be the question, isn't it? We definitely need, I see there's a comment around that. Sorry, I just lost my chat box for a moment, but let me just get it back. Attitude. Tanya saying that it's an attitude because you do choose, isn't it? You choose whether what information do you want to let in, what information do you want to take a risk on, what behaviors do you want to display and kind of see what the outcome will be. Do you want to take risk? That's definitely an attitude. And Lisa saying leadership requires trust. Leaders need to give trust and we need to learn to trust our people. Absolutely, Lisa. It's definitely a give and a take. You cannot lead people because it links to authenticity. Absolutely. The moment we sense that something is not sincere, that is when we immediately want to shut down and we want to protect ourselves, isn't it? Because we do want to make sure that we survive. That is our instinct. So I just want to get back to in terms of what I want to share with you around trust. Let me just, transition to the next slide real quick. So I'm not sure how many people have actually seen this this concept or this image or this diagram, but this really is depicting that trust is the key to collaboration. And as Sharon mentioned, to everything else. Conversation intelligence is quite a well-known concept by Judith Glaser, who theorized that what we think, what we say, what we mean, what others hear, and how we feel about it afterwards, those are the key dimensions behind conversational intelligence. Neurologically, we are designed to protect ourselves, as I mentioned earlier on, from danger. So when we are feeling threatened and fearful, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen there, then we naturally distrust. We resist sharing and collaborating because we don't trust that this environment is safe. If we look at the next image, it's only with positive behaviors and conversations that our needle on this barometer or this trust dashboard will move from an I conversation to a we conversation, where it moves to the willingness to experiment with a new concept, with change, and when we actually trust to share what it is that we think could be happening. Often people have ideas, but they don't want to share it because they're fearful of making mistakes. And in a learning culture, we should allow those mistakes. And that's how people learn to trust. Therefore, employees will not buy into any proposal, strategy changes if they believe that leaders are not listening to understand. And we are definitely looking at this in all contexts, but more so now in the context of hybrid teams and our current socio-economic climate, because a lot is happening in that space, isn't it? And people are really looking for others to be able to listen, to hear them, to really hear them, and to then collaborate and share on what the way forward will be. So rebuilding the foundation must start with trust. Remember earlier we mentioned that adequate resources is also a challenge. So if a manager or a resource is not able to manage with empathy popped up on our word cloud earlier on. If they're not flexible, if they're not efficient, then there's a skills gap, because that's what's needed in a leadership role and to lead any team, let alone hybrid teams. So when we look at our development stack model a little bit later on, you will see that Omni has included skills courses like collaborative management, like emotional intelligence, to ensure that managers or leaders are adequately skilled to deal with the vulnerabilities that we so generously encourage employees to share. I want us to have a listen to this video. It's 3 top tips from Jack McKeown, who is a sales leader with LinkedIn. And then we can chat about what your thoughts are and what tips you have for leading hybrid teams. So please bear with me for a moment. I actually just realized that I shared the screen without the audio. So I just want to quickly revert and then come back to it and make sure you're able to hear the audio on it as well. Okay, great. So please feel free to just confirm for me that you are able to hear the sound and the audio.
Hi, my name is Jack McKeown. I'm a senior manager here at LinkedIn Sales Solutions at our European head office in Dublin. And today I'm talking to you about a couple of tips for managing in this lockdown world we've found ourselves in. So I got 3 quick tips. The first one would be right now to manage that bit more compassionately than normal and listen. So that's not to say that we're not still accountable for our deliverables and the activities expected of us. It just really means that different people are being affected really in different ways at the moment, and it's really hard to tell what people are going through. Some have lost loved ones or had family members very ill or are just having difficulty dealing with the mental health implications of isolation. And I think it's really helpful right now to just listen before taking action sometimes. The second tip that I would have is really a personal tip, and that's to bookend your day. A lot of people, and certainly this is something for me personally, have been struggling switching between work life and non-work life when you're never leaving home in some cases. I, for one, never thought I would miss the daily commute and all that traffic to and from the office. But I, like millions of others, have realized that that commute actually served quite a strong purpose. And that was really in the morning on the way in the car, you switch your brain on to now I'm going into work and I'm going to be in work mode. And then at the end of the day, when you leave the office and get back into the traffic, you switch your brain off from working and into a more relaxed mode, and you enjoy your evening. I found myself quite a bit lately just not having that switch on, switch off process, and working at staggered times throughout the evening in really unhelpful ways that affect your freshness the next day. So something that's been working well for me right now is to do the same thing in the morning before working and the same thing in the evening. And in the evening time, I take my kids outside, we play a bit of sports, kick a ball around. My daughters like to rollerblade, have a bit of fun, totally switch off from work for about an hour, and that's me done with work for the day. So I highly recommend something like that, though I would say it's a work in progress for me. My final tip is take annual leave. You might not get the same out of your annual leave as you did last year, that trip to the beaches in Spain, Portugal, Italy, or Greece, or wherever you like to go to. But it is still really important to get away from work for a week or two, whatever you can. Speak to your manager, or director, or whomever. Find out when is the right time for you and the business for you to take that leave and close the laptop, get away. You might not even go anywhere. You might stay at home doing puzzles for a week, but it is really important to just switch off from work. So those are my 3 tips. Love to hear what's working from you or any feedback on my tips. Reach out, and most importantly, be well and stay safe.
Right. So what are your thoughts around these 3 tips? Do you think that they are relevant still now, or despite the fact that Jack mentions that this was during lockdown, he shot this video during the lockdown period? Do you think that these are still relevant? What are your tips for managing hybrid teams, do you think? Oh, Lisa, you missed the travel time. Yeah, time to plan and review strategy. Absolutely, I agree. I was a little bit the same. I did find that was my me time, because I used to joke and say when I get home, I start night shift. Hawa says, taking time to listen and consider the next steps, we tend to rush to solution mode. Absolutely, Hawa. Thank you for those comments. Sorry, I missed your comment earlier on, Dorothy, where you said you agree with Lisa. Learning from one's mistakes is key to self-development. Wow, I do apologize. I missed quite a bit in the comments box, where there was quite a bit of back and forth around, trust, the issue around trust and how to build trust. So I love what you're saying here, Dot. Trust allows us to be vulnerable, absolutely. So teams can be sincere and authentic to their leaders, definitely. If we don't show our vulnerabilities first, which is to acknowledge that we sometimes make mistakes, to acknowledge that we're human and we also have, feelings around certain things and opinions around certain things, then people will not share their own with us. So absolutely agree with that as well. Dorothy says, Maya Angelou's quote about people never forgetting how they are made to feel, building the trust is in the hand of leaders. Oh, wow. And I think that is such a profound quote, Dot, that I actually have it written down in one of my notebooks, because I absolutely agree with it. I mean, how many people, when they tell a story, they kind of go, I can't remember the exact time, or I can't remember this, but this is how I felt. Because all the additional details don't matter. It's about how they felt in that moment or in that interaction. So I absolutely love that, and so it's so important that we ensure that we are authentic, that we, as Jack mentioned, that we lead with compassion, that we listen, really listen to people when we are actually engaging with them. And I do want to acknowledge, because if there are contact center people in the room, I do want to acknowledge that, when it comes to contact centers, it's very regulated, it's very scheduled. It's not always possible for us to be as flexible, like Jack mentioned, just take leave whenever you want. That's not really, not always possible in a contact center. But that is why it's so important that we are willing to have courageous conversations with people and to really apply innovative leadership, because these qualities will definitely propel contact centers forward. So where to from here? What is it that we need to do? What is it that we can actually practically apply that is going to help us? So apart from what we've been talking about thus far, start with building trust and leading with compassion. Those would be our top too, of course, as we mentioned earlier on, because without that, nothing else is going to happen. It's not going to be successful. I see Dot says, remember to keep connected with your team using a medium that makes them feel comfortable. Absolutely, especially when leading a multi-generational workforce. And that is so crucial, Dot, because we have to acknowledge that people communicate, people learn differently, and it's going to take different components for different people to be vulnerable or to show their vulnerability, isn't it? And to trust as well. So from our side, we've listed, of course, a couple. The first one that I've got on our screen there is to foster a coaching culture and develop ourselves to keep abreast of effective coaching methods. If we employ or if we implement the couple of things that we are going to list now, I do believe that everything else in terms of operational activity is going to fall into place and will be executed efficiently. Because we don't want to forget that there are still deliverables that must happen on a daily basis, as Jack also mentioned in his little video. So we can't forget about adherence and attendance. We can't forget about the briefing sessions that we need to have. We can't forget about the target setting and the objective setting and the escalations that we must take. So that is still there. But if we foster a coaching culture and support our people in managing all of this, I do believe that it will propel a contact center or team forward, especially in terms of our hybrid teams. Invest in management training and upskilling. It really is about being the knowledge champions. And I do want to kind of take a step back and say this is not just in terms of management, it is also for our teams. Invest in their training and upskilling because they also want to be and need to be empowered so that they can support you in your objectives if you are in a leadership position. Then we also, create an autonomous working environment with boundaries and appropriate consequences, of course. Trust is built on dependability, it's built on integrity and respecting boundaries. So we are not saying allow people to make decisions left, right, and center and let them be. We are saying give a little bit, allow them to make certain decisions, create an environment where they feel that they can, but that they also understand that there will be consequences and that there are boundaries within which they are able to work. And then, of course, I do believe that we must be absolutely clear and transparent when communicating expectations. But again, always considering vulnerabilities, considering conversational intelligence, as we mentioned a little bit earlier on. So I just want to take a quick moment to check in the chat box if there's any comments or questions that I can address before I then show you a little bit around the Omni's development stack model. So I am going to stop sharing the screen so that I can start sharing that in a moment. So Dot says, remember to keep it, I think we've read that one. And then Lisa says, COVID-19 has created chaos in more ways than one. Navigating this as leaders and being present with your people when the future is unclear is important. Sometimes you cannot navigate more than a day at a time. The one clear strategy is change. Absolutely, Lisa. That is well said. People do need to feel like, there is some kind of, even if we must say stability in the midst of chaos. And that is that everybody is in it together and everybody understand what's happening and how this affects them as well. So I love that. All right, I just want to get up the development stack screen so that I can share with you how we actually support career development with the courses that we have on offer. So please bear with me. Right, I trust that you can see our image of the development stack for contact centers. And as you can see, please, again, sorry, I'm going on and on, but please feel free to pop any questions around this development stack, especially in the chat box, and we'll make sure to grab them and address them as soon as we can. Okay, so when we're looking at the contact center development stack, you'll see that it supports ongoing skills development within various work levels. We offer accredited learning pathways that promote career development. So throughout this stack, you will notice that formal learning qualifications, as you can see, the National Certificate in Contact Center Support, you see the National Certificate in Contact Center and BPO, which I'll go through in a bit. We've got Contact Center Operations and Generic Management, and then also the National Diploma in Contact Center Management. All of these are supplemented with specialized skills programs and soft skills as you move along this path. An individual might already have the formal qualification, but might feel like they need to fine-tune their skills a little bit, or they have moved to a specialist skills team and now need that additional training. And so along this path, you'll see that we have groups of courses that almost forms like serves as a top-up for the qualification. A lot of them also stand on its own. So if an individual feels that they want to only do debt collections, for example, because they already have a national certificate in contact center support, then that is an option for them. So anyone, as you can see from the top here at number 1, anyone can start on this path, whether they are unemployed or just entering the contact center industry. With this contact center support qualification, they will gain knowledge around what contact centers are all about, how it works, and they will learn skills on how to conduct themselves within this space. So that is aimed at or pitched at an NQF level 2. When we move a little bit further down, you'll see that we have the customer service, we have sales, we have debt collections and effective business writing courses. That would be our specialist skills programs that, as I mentioned earlier, an individual can choose because perhaps they already have the formal qualification, but they are now moved to a debt collections team and they need additional knowledge and skills to deal with this very unique client. So that would be just after the National Certificate in Contact Center Support. Our next level qualification is the Contact Center Support and BPO qualification at an NQF 3 level. This is aimed at our seasoned agents who have probably worked in the contact center for a while, but again now they want to formalize their experience. And so that would be the qualification that would be recommended over there. For individuals who are already being promoted or they are ready to be promoted into a more managerial or team leader role, we have 2 streams that they are able to choose from, which is the generic management stream as well as the contact center operations stream. You can see here that they're both on an NQF 4 level. So it really just is about what this individual or what their experience has been and what their path has been and where they see themselves going forward. And then we have the contact center management qualification, which is a national diploma at NQF 5 level. And this national diploma is aimed at contact center managers, leaders that have been in that space for quite a bit, or executives, since this qualification is really focused on the more strategic leadership skills, because it looks at analytics in every aspect and critical thinking around problem solving and finding solutions. You'll notice that just in terms of the generic management, in terms of future skills needed going forward, people management, collaborative management, and emotional intelligence. Remember, this came through in terms of what we think is going to be needed for people to successfully lead hybrid teams and any other team for that matter. So that kind of follows there. And then we also have, in terms of the contact center operations stream, for individuals who are in very specialist teams like workforce management or like the quality assurance team, there are short courses and skills programs that can support them as well. Just to mention that although these are positioned under a contact center operation qualification like workforce management and quality assurance, it doesn't mean that if you have followed a generic management path that those are not available to you or that you cannot embark on those short courses at all. And that is our development stack in terms of how we support someone who wants to build on their skills and want to ensure that they formalize the experience, but also just for those who have formal qualifications, for them to be able to enhance their current skills, and like we encourage lifelong learning for people who just want to kind of build on their knowledge and skills. Are there any questions thus far in terms of how this works or what it's about? Lisa says, allow leaders to lead. Relationships are critical. If you have no relationship capital with your people, you will be unable to navigate this turbulent waters. Absolutely, Lisa. Yeah. Contact center management qualification is exciting. I agree, Lisa. We really are excited to to impart and to share the knowledge and the information that we can with contact center managers and leaders, especially now in our in this turbulent times that we are managing in. Thank you for your comment, Tanya. Very well structured and clear pathways to success. Of course, these are also available on our website, or if you need more information around this, you're welcome to chat to anyone of our leadership team. And of course, we will be available after the session for a couple of minutes as well, if we do move on and you still haven't asked your question. And thank you, Sharon, also inviting you to please engage with sales and marketing at the advisory desk within our virtual open day. All right, I do want to, because I do still have a couple of minutes, I do want to share with you a little bit around how we actually ensure that this is very formal learning. It's very, we used to see learning as very traditional, that you have to be in a classroom, etc. But we know that times have moved on. We have been thrown into this new normal again, and we had to think around ways and means of doing things differently. And we definitely have solutions for those who feel that at the moment the bum in the seat is really the priority, and they can't allow people off the floor or into a training room or off site for that matter, because being in, on the phones or being in the contact center is critical at this point. So we do have the online learning, and I thought I'd just share with you real quick what that looks like and how we still try to make sure that people have an experiential journey with us. So this is our Omni Stack platform. And on my screen at the moment, you'll see a couple of courses. It looks quite busy, but this is just dependent on, or the screen is customized for whatever the individual has been registered for. So at the moment, there's a lot happening on my screen, but if this is your first time with Omni, then there'll probably almost likely only be one or two links on the screen. So I'm just going to choose one program, because as you can see, there are different programs. I'm going to choose one of them just to quickly show you a little bit in terms of what sits within this platform. So I've clicked on our further education and training certificate. Sorry, let me just log in again. That screen has been open for a while now. And then I'll just navigate back in there. So this is what a learner would experience when they actually go into this platform. As I mentioned earlier, it's customized just depending on what it is that you've been registered for. I'm going into the FET certificate in general management. And as you can see, we have what the learner is expected to achieve at the end of this particular qualification. All our training is quite customized in the sense that we have conversations with the client just to make sure that we understand how this is going to work, to understand the time frame over which it's going to happen. And so we do issue an individual with a training and assessment plan. And this training assessment plan will really guide the learner in terms of how they should be managing their time, what is going to happen at what time, what their deliverables are. So this is just a quick snapshot of one that was customized for one of our clients. So there are clear dates and there are clear indications of what is to happen. As you can see, there is time for an individual to go through the content. We do have engaging webinars in which we discuss some of the concepts. We have discussion forums, and then of course we indicate to the individual when assessments, formative and summative assessments, are due for submission. Oh, sorry about that. I think I just went out of my Omni stack, so it will just take me a couple of seconds to get back in. What's really nice about the platform, even if I must say so myself, is that we really do try to load on here as much as we can for the learner to actually have that experiential journey with us. Knowing that the person don't always have that face-to-face interaction, we want to make sure that we still cater for people who have all of these different learning styles. As you can see here, we've loaded the portfolio of evidence, so all of our contracting happens online, just dependent of course on whether the seat is accepted or not. We know that that is still an ongoing process, but there are videos on our Omni stack that guides the learner in terms of what it is that they need to do and how they need to do it, just in case they again have questions and missed maybe the first orientation session that we've had with them. The learning program is loaded on our OmniStack platform, separated into the different modules, again being very clear about what is expected for them to achieve. We have webinar links, so every webinar is recorded and we make sure it's uploaded here for the learner to play back and to reflect and to use again as support. We have discussion forums for the learners to engage with us in terms of whether they have questions that they need answered. Maybe it's a hot topic that we want everybody to collaborate on, but we do make sure we encourage people to engage in the discussion forum as well. And then just to maybe quickly show you that in terms of the reporting functions, because from a leadership perspective, we do also have an obligation to keep records. We want to make sure that we understand how people are doing. We do have very good reporting function on OmniStack, whereby we can actually keep track of people's progress. We can give feedback around that. We are able to see how often a learner is accessing their online content, whether they've completed all the activities, and we're able to then engage with the learner when we pick up that there's a need for additional coaching, or that they are actually not really coping with the content, if that might be the case. So yeah, that is our OmniStack platform that we use just to make sure that there's enough for the learner to be able to be self-directed, but if it is a blended approach that we are using, we do supplement that with virtual webinars where we discuss some of the content as well. Are there any questions, ladies and gentlemen? How are we feeling at the moment? Are there any comments around our online platform? Any questions around that? But again, I just want to remind you that you are welcome to stay extra couple of minutes if you have any questions, and you're also welcome to engage in the advisory desk. Okay. Right, so we're near the end of our session. We have a couple of minutes left, and that means that it is time for our giveaway. So I just want to share our screen so that we can see what it is that we are that's up for grabs. Oops, there we go. Right, guys, so you have an opportunity to win this awesome Madiba Legacy book, coffee table book, that serves as an awesome reminder for us, just in terms of how far we've come, a reminder of the legacy that Madiba has left behind, just to inspire us to always look ahead, always see the best in people, but to always look, to what we can do differently and what we can do better that is going to impact everybody and not just us as individuals. So what is it that we're going to have to do in order to win this awesome book? We are going to ask you to enable your cameras so that we can just quickly take a snapshot of all of your beautiful faces to commemorate this session. You're welcome to show us your best funny face. We'll then post this picture in the chat box for you to access. And then we are going to ask you to post this to your favorite social media platform with the hashtag, which I'm going to also put in the chat box. And then throughout the day, we will check in to see who has posted, who has the wackiest face depicted, and then we'll choose the winner by the end of the day. So if your posts can please be on the social media platforms by 3 o'clock, that will be awesome, because then we will still get into contact with you to let you know if you were the winner. So I'm just going to pop the details into the chat box real quick. All right, and then we are going to ask everybody to just enable the cameras. So please don't be shy. We are welcoming wacky faces, funny faces. We're okay if you are in your gown. We're okay if we're in your lounge working from home. That's all perfectly fine. Hello, Mandy. Thank you for for participating.
Hi.
So let me stop sharing my screen so that we can see all the faces. Hi, Taryn. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So you are in line to stand this awesome prize. We're just waiting to see if there are others that are brave enough to enable their cameras as well, so that we can take this snapshot. So just while we're waiting for others to join us, so what we want to have happen, Mandy and Taryn, is post the snapshot with a picture. You're welcome to take a picture of you and your team if you have a team, or just yourself, that's also fine, being really crazy. And then please post that for us to your favorite social media platform, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please use the hashtag that I have in the chat box, which is Omni Virtual Open Day 2020. And then at Omni HR Consulting, that is our handle. So please do that for us. It looks like there's only two. You're the only two at the moment that's in the running for this competition, for this book. 3 people. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to get my colleague to take a snapshot of this, and then we'll post that in the chat box for you to access. Okay. Right, so that's it for my session. Thank you so much for engaging. I am going to just share. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, Mandy. We're going to pop that into the chat box for you to access, okay? And then I'm just going to quickly share the last screen, which has our contact details on it, just in case you missed it. But you're welcome to contact us on landline, and our email addresses for myself and Sharon and Dot that you saw in the chat box is available for you should you have any questions with regards to the contact center information. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have an awesome day. Please join the next track, which is going to be our food and beverage track. Exciting information there that you can gain from Mario's session. Thanks, everyone, and bye-bye.